It's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb, and today I'm going to show you how to make my no-sew crochet crab pattern named Claudio. Now, Claudio is available in two different sizes here. However, we use the same pattern instructions for both toys. We're just going to substitute different material lists to make the different sizes. So we've got the mini size here, which uses a worsted weight yarn, and he measures approximately 3 inches across from leg tip to leg tip and is about 3/4 of an inch tall. And then for our jumbo size here, we're using a super bulky weight yarn or blanket yarn. This is Burnett Blanket, and he measures 7 inches across, again, across the top from leg to leg, and then is about 2.5 inches tall. They're just so cute. So as I said, this is completely no-sew. It's an easy pattern, and I'm going to show you how to make your own no-sew crab today, step by step. So I'm going to pop the material lists up here on the screen for you while I prepare my workspace to show you how to make your own no-sew crochet crab. All right, to start our crab, we're going to need to create a magic circle. And to do that, we're going to lay the tail end of our yarn across our palm and pin it down with our thumb. Then grabbing the working end of our yarn, we're going to wrap our fingers around the back with that yarn and bring it around to the front and then cross it over itself like so to create an X. Now, while maintaining tension on your working yarn, you're going to flip your non-dominant hand and pin the working yarn down between two of your fingers. Then you're going to grab your crochet hook and insert it under the first strand and over the second. Then we're going to use our hook to pull that second strand under the first strand. And we're going to twist our hook like this to create a little cross in our yarn. Then we're going to reach with our hook to grab the working yarn to yarn over hook and pull that through the loop on our hook. Then you can pull your fingers out of your magic ring. And then you'll see that you have your yarn tail here. We want to grab that yarn tail and make sure it's not sitting inside the magic ring. And now we're ready to start crocheting round 1 of our no-sew crab. If you need to see that again slower, you can either slow down the speed settings here on your video, or you can check out my tutorial here on the channel. So for round 1, we're going to need to work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And we're going to insert our hook into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through both loops. That's your first single crochet. And we're going to do that again, into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through 2. And that's your second single crochet. Now we're going to do that again. There's 3, and we have 3 more to do. And there's our 6 single crochets. You can count them by starting in the top of your stitch. The yarn on your hook never counts as a stitch. We're going to count these little V's. So starting next to the hook, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that first one often is a little tighter than the rest, and it wants to hide down on the side, and there is 6. So now you can grab your yarn tail and pull your magic ring closed. And there is the end of round 1. This is what your piece should look like so far. Now you're going to need your stitch marker because we're going to need it in just a moment. We're moving into round 2. And in Amigurumi, when you work at a continuous spiral, you want to make sure that you're marking the first stitch of the round using a stitch marker, so that's why we need it handy. So for round 2, we're going to work a single crochet increase into each stitch around, and I'll show you how to do that now. So insert your hook into the first stitch under both loops. Could be a little tight, that's normal. Then you're going to single crochet once into that stitch. Then grab your stitch marker and place it under both loops of that stitch that you just created. Now a single crochet increase is when we work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Since we've already done one, we're going to have to do our second now. So going back into that same stitch, we're going to single crochet a second time. Right, and that's our first single crochet increase completed. And we're going to do this in the next stitch. Again, it's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. So into this very next stitch here, we work 1 single crochet and back into the same stitch to work a second single crochet. And we're going to do that in every stitch around. At the end of round 2, you should have 12 single crochets. So if you'd like to pause your video, meet me back here in just a moment. I'll show you how we're moving into round 3. All right, we're moving into round 3 now. We're going to move our stitch marker out of the way so we can work into that very first stitch. And round 3, we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into that first stitch. So again, under both loops of that first stitch and single crochet. Then we're going to grab our stitch marker and place it into that stitch. Then we're going to work a single crochet increase into that next stitch. So again, that's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. Now, if you're following along with the written pattern, you'll see that round 3 says 1 single crochet in the first stitch, followed by a single crochet increase in the next, and then we're going to need to repeat that pattern 6 times. So I'll show you how to do that again. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch and a single crochet increase into the next. All right, so now we've done that pattern 2 times total. We'll do it together again. 1 single crochet into the first stitch and a single crochet increase into the next. So we need to repeat that pattern 3 more times. And at the end of the round, you should have 18 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and do that now, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into round 4. So at the end of round 3, we actually need to mark where our safety eyes are going to go. So I'm going to use my scrap piece of yarn to place it into the stitches so that way I can continue to crochet and come back to those stitches when I have enough room to place my safety eyes. So the pattern says we're going to insert our safety eyes in stitch 7 and 11 of round 3. So again, we count our stitches by counting the V's, and this one with the stitch marker is stitch 1. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to place my finger right next to that, and I'm going to insert my hook into the 7th stitch and grab one of the ends of my scrap yarn here. Should have maybe had a longer piece. In fact, I'm going to do that. All right, so I've got my longer piece of scrap yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to insert my hook into that 7th stitch there, and then I'm going to pull the one end of that scrap piece of yarn through the stitch. All right, it doesn't matter if the tail comes through the right side or the wrong side, just as long as you have something in that stitch to mark it. And so then we have to mark the 11th stitch. So if this is 7, we go 8, 9, 10, and 11. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the 11th stitch and pull the other end of my scrap yarn tail through. So I'm going to even those up, and we're just going to leave that hanging there for when we need to put our safety eyes in. If we were to put our safety eyes in now, we wouldn't be able to crochet the next rounds. So, and the backing would block our work from progressing. So we're just going to leave those in place. So now we're moving into round 4. We're going to move that stitch marker out of our first stitch, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And we're going to put our stitch marker back into that stitch. Then we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. There's our first, back into the same stitch, and there is our second stitch. Now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. followed by a single crochet increase into the next. Right, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now in this second stitch here, we have our marker. So use your fingers on the front and the back of the piece to gently move that marker away. So that way you can kind of see through the stitch enough to when you insert your hook there, you're not picking up the marker. And we're just going to single crochet. Then in the next stitch, we're doing a single crochet increase. We'll work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into the next. Again, you want to use your fingers to gently pull that marker out of the way on the front and the back of the fabric. And again, we're working that single crochet increase into this stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, followed by a single crochet increase, 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, followed by a single crochet increase. In this last stitch here, we're going to work 1 single crochet. Now at the end of round 4 here, you should have 24 stitches around your piece. And this is where you can measure your gauge. If you're, tight on yarn or you want to make sure that your crab turns out to be the designated size, what you would do is you'd measure your piece across the widest section. So front loop to front loop across the widest part here. So hold that up from here to here. For the mini size, which is made using the worsted weight yarn, which we are here, it should measure 1.37 inches or 3.5 centimeters across the widest part here. And if you're making it with the super bulky blanket yarn, then it should measure 3.5 inches or 8.9 centimeters across this widest section. Right? For amigurumi, gauge isn't super important. But if you're like selling at markets and you want all your toys to be the same size, this is how you can do that by ensuring that at this stage, they all measure the same. All right, so we're moving into round 5. In round 5, we're going to start to create the legs of our crab. So let's move our stitch marker out of the way. And we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Don't forget to move up your stitch marker and place it into that stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So now we're going to start our first leg, and we're going to do that by creating a chain of 5. So we're going to yarn over hook and pull through the loop on our hook. That's 1. Yarn over and pull through. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to turn our work so we're working back down the chain and starting in the second chain from the hook. Remember that the yarn on our hook never counts as a stitch. So we go 1, 2. I'm going to place my finger next to that second chain. We're going to insert our hook into that chain. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop and yarn over and pull through 2 to single crochet. Now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 3 chains. Insert into the next chain and single crochet into the next and into this last chain. So now we're going to single crochet into the next stitch of this previous round here. If you take a look, you can see that there's some yarn pulling here on this stitch, and that's where our last single crochet was before we created our chain. So we're not working into that stitch because we're going into this very next stitch here. And then we're just working 1 single crochet. And you can see that we've got one of our little legs created, and this single crochet we just worked helps to anchor the stitch back to the body. So now we're going to make our next leg. So we need to create another chain 5. So yarn over and pull through. There's 1, 3, 4, and 5. Again, turning, so we're working back down the chain. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each remaining chains. So each leg should have 4 single crochet stitches in it. So now that we have our second leg created, we're going to work a single crochet into the very next stitch of the previous round to anchor it back to the body. And now we have 2 legs, and we're going to create our third leg here by creating another chain 5. Working back down our chain, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each remaining chain. Now that we have our third leg done, we're going to anchor it back to the body by single crocheting in the very next stitch. And we're going to work our last leg on the right side of our crab here by doing another chain of 5. Working back down our chain, single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each remaining chain. And then to anchor it back to the body, we're going to single crochet in the very next stitch here. Then we're going to single crochet in the very next stitch again. So after this last leg, you're doing 2 single crochets instead of 1. And now we're going to create our very first claw. And to do that, we're going to start with a chain of 7. So yarn over and pull through until you have 7 chains. There's 2, 3, 4, and 7. So we're going to turn our work. So we're working back down the chain and starting in the second chain from the hook, we're going to do a slip stitch. So insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, then pull that loop through the loop that was already on your hook. And that's your slip stitch created. Now we're going to work a single crochet into this very next stitch, or chain I should say. And then we're going to work a half double crochet in this very next. So we're going to yarn over hook, insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. So that's the one side of the claw completed. I'm not, up to date on crab anatomy, but we're going to create what I call the crab's thumb next. But before we do that, we want to place a stitch marker at the very base of the half double crochet we just completed. So we're just putting that stitch marker directly into that chain that we just worked into so we can find it in just a few moments after we create the little thumb part. So now we're going to create a chain of 2. So yarn over and chain 1 and 2. And then we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So skip the first into the second. We're going to work a single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet into that marked stitch or the marked chain here. So insert our hook into that same chain and single crochet. And now you can move your stitch marker out of the way. And then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 3 chains. And so this is what your first little claw should look like here. It's supposed to be like an open type claw. And then we have all of our little legs. If your legs are looking a little twisted, that's totally fine. I'm going to talk to you at the end of the video about how you can straighten these out. So now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches of round 4. So insert into the very next stitch here and single crochet, and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So it's important here that you make sure that you have your 5 stitches, because we want that specific number between our 2 claws. So that way our safety eyes line up the way that they're supposed to with those claws. So now we're ready to create our second claw. We're going to start by creating a chain of 5. So yarn over and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. We're going to grab our stitch marker here, and we're going to place our stitch marker in the chain that we just worked our single crochet into. Then we're going to create a chain of 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to work back down the chain and slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Single crochet into the next. And then half double crochet into that very last chain here. So yarn over and insert into that chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Then we're going to single crochet back into that marked stitch or marked chain here. So insert into that chain with the stitch marker and single crochet. And then you can remove your stitch marker. And so what we've just done here is, because the claws face inwards like this, we had to work it backwards so that way they mirror each other. So on this side, we created our little thumb piece first, followed by the outer part of our claw. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining chains. Then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches in round 4 here. And this anchors our claw to our body. And now we're ready to create our second set of legs. Our first leg here, we're going to do a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Working back down the chain, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and each of the remaining 3 chains. Then we're going to single crochet back into the very next stitch of round 4 here. And we're creating our next leg by doing another chain of 5. Turn your work, so you're working back down the chain, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and each chain across. Then we're going to single crochet into the very next stitch of round 4. And then we're going to create our third leg here. So we're going to create another chain of 5. And then turn our work. Single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each chain across. Then we single crochet back into the very next stitch of round 4. And now we're ready to start our last leg. So another chain 5, turn your work, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and each chain across. And then we're going to single crochet in the very next stitch of round 4. Again, we're anchoring our legs to our body, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the remaining 4 stitches. At the end of this round, your piece, I'm going to try and hold these back here. This is what your piece should look like. It's totally normal for your claws and your legs to be a little curly right now. We can straighten them out later, but you should have 4 legs on each side plus the 2 claws. So for a total of 8 legs, 2 claws, and 24 stitches in between them. All right. Now we're ready to move into round 6. But before we do, let's put our safety eyes into our toy. So we've marked our stitches here with our scrap yarn, and we're going to take our safety eyes and just place them through each of those stitches. We want to make sure that the right side is facing us. This is what your right side should look like, and your wrong side should look like this. And you can see these little bars on the back of your stitches here. If you see those, that's the wrong side of your fabric. So now I've placed one of my safety eyes into the stitch. I'm going to pull that side of the stitch marker out, and then I'm going to place my backing onto my eye. You want to push that until it can't, you hear or feel the clicking, and it cannot be pushed on any further. All right, there's the one. I'm going to repeat that with the second eye. All right, and there we go. And now at this point, I would also recommend that you tie off or weave in your tail here from your magic ring at the beginning, so that way it doesn't unravel. I'm just going to tie a quick knot in mine. This will just be a little shelf piece, so I'm not super concerned about it falling apart, as it will not be played with. And now we're ready to start round 6. We're going to move our stitch marker out of the way and work 1 single crochet into that stitch. Then we're going to put our stitch marker back into that stitch, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of these next 3 stitches. Now in this round, we have to work around our legs and make sure that they're on the right side of the fabric. So the right side of the fabric should always be facing you. And we're going to take our thumb here and we're going to push the first leg towards us to the right side of the fabric. And when you do that, you kind of expose the very next single crochet in the round. So what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in that very next stitch, making sure that the leg is on the right side of the fabric, and single crochet. And so you can see that it kind of pushes the leg upwards, and that's fine. It's going to get fixed in the next round. So then we're going to push the very next leg forward, find the single crochet in between the next 2 legs, and single crochet into that stitch. Now we want to make sure that our single crochets are nice and tight here. If we tend to get a little loosey-goosey here, then you can have little holes underneath your legs, which you don't want. So make sure that you're maintaining a really strong tension here in this round. So again, we're going to skip this very next leg, push it to the front of your fabric, find the very next single crochet here and insert your hook into it and single crochet again. All right, and again with our last stitch here, our last leg here, I should say, push it to the right side of the fabric, skip it, and single crochet into that very next stitch. So with our very last stitch leg here, we're going to push it to the right side of the fabric, insert our hook into the very next single crochet, and work another single crochet there. Now you might notice that your piece wants to kind of start cupping this way up towards you. That's normal. Just take your hand and kind of push that cupping down, which will make it a little easier to work. So then we should have one single crochet here in this next stitch, and then we're just going to work one single crochet. Then we're going to skip the claw, push it to the right side of the fabric, and single crochet in the very next stitch. There should be 4 more stitches here along the front of the crab. We're going to work one single crochet into each of them. And we're going to repeat what we did on the right side of our crab here on the left, but just doing it in reverse was because we're starting with our claw. So take your claw, push it to the right side of the fabric, and single crochet in the very next stitch. Single crochet in the very next stitch here. Push the next leg to the right side of the fabric and single crochet in the next stitch. Push the next leg to the right side of the fabric and single crochet in the very next stitch. Push the next leg to the right side of the fabric and single crochet in the very next stitch. And pushing this last leg to the right side of the fabric, we're going to single crochet in the very next stitch. Then we're just going to work one single crochet into each of the remaining stitches here of the round. At the end of round 6, you should have 24 stitches. So this is what your piece should look like. Now that because we had that natural cupping that was happening towards us and we've pushed it down, you can start to see that our crab is starting to take a little more of that rounded shape on top. So now we're moving into round 7 and we're going to start closing up our crab. So for our first stitch, we're going to move the stitch marker out of the way and work one single crochet into this very first stitch. Then we're going to work a single crochet decrease. With Amigurumi, we use a technique called the invisible decrease. So that means we're going to work our decrease into the front loops only of this stitch. When you look at the top of the stitch, each one has 2 strands. The one furthest from you is the back loop and the one closest to you is the front loop. When we are working a single crochet decrease in an invisible one, we're going to work up and under those front loops only. All right, so let's do our decrease. You're going to insert our hook up and under the front loop only of the first stitch and up and under the front loop of the second. You may have to twist your hook like I am here to grab that with the tip of the hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through 2. And that's your single crochet decrease. Then we're going to work one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Make sure that you're using your thumb or one of your fingers here to push those legs down so they're not interfering with how you're crocheting. So one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, followed by a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. Then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2. And that's your decrease. Now we're going to work one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Followed by a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under that front loop of the first and the second stitch. Now one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, followed by a decrease, or single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loops of the first and the second stitch. There you go. Now one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. followed by a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and the second stitch. Single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, followed by a single crochet decrease here, and then we have 1 stitch here to work into, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that stitch. At the end of round 7, you should have 18 stitches. Now at this point, we're going to start stuffing our toy. And we're going to just start adding a little bit at a time. It's a pretty small toy, so you're not going to need a ton of stuffing. The key here is to make sure that it is stuffed firmly, because that will give your toy the most longevity possible. So I'm just going to add this little bit, and then I can add some more as I go. Feel free to take a moment and add more stuffing whenever you feel you would like to. So now we're moving into round 8. We're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Move up our stitch marker. Then we're going to do a single crochet decrease in this next stitch here. So into the first and the second. And we're going to repeat that pattern around our piece. And that pattern is 1 single crochet into the first stitch, followed by a single crochet decrease. All right, and we'll do 1 more repeat together. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, followed by a single crochet decrease. Now, if you'd like to pause your video and continue to do that pattern repeat 3 more times, again, that 1 single crochet followed by a single crochet decrease. At the end of round 8, you should have 12 stitches. So I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Now we're moving into round 9, and we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 6 single crochet decreases around our piece. So again, we're still using that invisible decrease. So we're going to go up and under those front loops of the first and second stitch. Now we're going to move up our stitch marker. We've done our first single crochet decrease, and now we're going to do it 5 more times. I will note that if you want to add any more stuffing, this is your last chance to do so, as after this we're going to be closing up the toy. I'm happy with how much stuffing I have in there, I think, so I'm going to continue to work my single crochet decreases. So again, we're just going to work single crochet decreases over 2 stitches across the round. So you're working a total of 6 single crochet decreases, and we're getting really tight in terms of spacing here. So if you're finding that that last round is difficult to do, that's totally normal. Just have a little patience. It's totally worth the end result of how clean you will get the end of your toy. So we're going to do our last single crochet decrease here. Now we're going to cut our yarn tail. I like to leave a yarn tail of at least 6 to 8 inches here. And then I'm going to pull that yarn tail all the way through my last stitch. You're going to need your tapestry needle, and we're going to thread our tapestry needle onto our yarn tail. And we're going to use a technique that's called the ultimate finish to close up our toy and give it a nice smooth finish on the bottom. So we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way here, and we're going to use our needle to thread our yarn tail through the front loop only of each stitch around. So we're going up and under the front loop of the first stitch and pull that yarn tail through, And we're just going to repeat it in every stitch around. So now that I've gone through every stitch, I'm going to hold on to my toy in one hand and pull on the yarn tail with the other to close that last round. And now you'll see that there's a little nub left here. That's expected. What we're going to do is we're going to take our yarn tail and go through the center of the last round here. So right through the middle. And I'm going to bring it out through one of the stitches on the opposite side. Right? We want to make sure we're not catching any of the yarn. We're coming through one of the little holes in the stitches. So we're going to give that needle a pull, and we're going to keep pulling until we cinch that side down. So you can see now that by doing that, it's a nice smooth bottom. So I'm going to give my safety eyes a little bit of a push up because I didn't quite stuff the front of my toy as much as I would normally like to. There we go. And now we're just going to fasten off. So I'm going to tie a couple of knots in my yarn tail here, and I want to get them as close to the fabric as I can. I like to do 2 to 3 knots on top of each other. Then I'm going to take my needle and go back through the toy, through the hole that my yarn is coming out of, and bring it out through another part of my toy. All right, again, we're coming through one of the holes, not through the yarn, so that way we don't catch the yarn and it's easier for the yarn to glide through. Then we're going to pull that knot into the inside. Okay, and you can repeat this several times. The more times that you do this, the better, the more secure it's going to be. I'm going to do it one more time. And then again, back into the toy and out somewhere else. And then pull that knot to the inside of the fabric. Then I'm going to cut my yarn tail. I'm going to put some tension on the yarn, so when I give it a snip, it should pop right back inside the toy. Now, that is how you crochet your little no-sew crab. Again, your legs, you've got so many little legs and claws here, it's totally normal for it to be kind of twisty like this. Now, I'm going to grab one of my other crabs so I can show you what we've done. So here is one of my other crabs, and you can see that his legs are much straighter and more well-defined than right after we finished. So what I did with this little guy is you can block your amigurumi. And what I've done is I just put this down on a little foam mat that I had, and I pinned all of his legs in place and gave it a little blast with my garment steamer on a warm setting. This is acrylic yarn. You absolutely can block it. And you just use a gentle steam and don't touch the garment steamer to your fabric as it could melt. But you can see the difference it makes. It does a great job. You can even use water to block it as well in place. So I recommend taking some pins, pinning them in place, even just giving them a little twist like this will help to straighten them out. All right, so that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing. If you like free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com, where I've got hundreds of free crochet patterns, many of which have step-by-step tutorials just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy crocheting, and I'll see you next time.